very striking about this election, more than ever, separate from the gender divide, is kind of the educational divide, which, most of us talk to people who have four-year college degrees. Most of us exist in an ecosystem of words and literature and ideas. And I think that's all quite wonderful. But it's also true statistically that that's 35% of the country as opposed to 65%, which is not. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, meaning I don't know what one does with that, but it certainly is a reality. Anyway, I'm just wondering how you disagree with that, however you disagree with that.
Yeah, I have a real particular thought, which is the kind of activism and action and community that I'm talking about, I don't think needs to be done across a political valence necessarily. I think it can be embedded in a community and a place where you don't ask people what they did in the election, right? This might sound kind of small bore, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is there is a mutual aid society in Austin where it's called the Free Fridge, and you just leave food. They don't offer. You don't have to show who you voted for, or if you voted, or if what your income is, or anything, right? It's just like food that's on someone's. It's like a free library, but it's a fridge, like it's a private fridge on someone's private property. There is a low-cost veterinarian clinic that you can support in Austin. That again, no one shows their party ID when they walk in the door, right? Some of these, like the Free Fridge, might have a little bit of a political valence. There is a harm reduction community here in Austin. I actually serve on the board of the Sobering Center, which is a safe space for people to get sober that police can take them, rather than take them to jail. Again, no one asked for any kind of political ID. The people that founded it include prosecutors and defense attorneys and judges. And all of that stuff is stuff that builds capacity in a community to become further involved. And also the people I've met through those organizations, we don't talk about politics. We talk about moving that organization. I answer the hotline at a addiction crisis place. And I will tell you right now, I have a strong suspicion that the guy that also works the phone at the same time as me does not vote the same way as I do. Really strong suspicion. Come up like in this sort of on the edges, right? The day after the election, he asked me how I was doing, and I almost blew up with him because I knew what he was asking, right? And we had a really tense conversation. And then I said to him, how are the donations going? And we had to talk about the donations for that place. Now, all of this to me are the places that people can build resilience. And again, in their communities, and they can connect with people. I also think that the guy I work with at the addiction hotline probably maybe has a college degree. Pretty sure, probably not a very fancy one, I know he's not into literature, right? We've talked about it. He likes to read, but he's not going to be conversant with the stuff that I read, like in my, where I went to school. He might be interested. I don't know. That's just not what we talk about. But those are the places where you can make connections and be, as you use, conversant with people or to make connections with people. And that's the places where I feel like I'm just going to use this guy at the hotline to make it a point, which is that we had a conversation. He got real upset about trans stuff, pronouns once. Gary, if somebody called the hotline and gave you their pronouns, would you hang up on them? And he was kind of forced to admit that would not be very charitable, right? Like that would not be a smart thing to do when someone's in crisis, to get angry about them using pronouns that he may not think are necessary or agreeing with. That's what I want people to do. I don't necessarily want people to, go out and march. I believe in marching. There's going to be more political violence. There's going to be mass deportations. But I also tell you what, the way that you fight those mass deportations is by creating a community, again, that has the resilience and the capacity to do something. Because also, and we know this from various anecdotes throughout the country, right? There's that story that's kind of famous about the community, the guy who got deported, who's the restaurant owner. Some story, I don't remember where it was, somewhere in the Midwest, where there's this guy who was an immigrant, came in with a shirt off his back, wound up getting deported. All of his customers were Trump supporters. And they were like, God, we didn't realize this would happen. I think when you connect in your community, Then you develop people who may not get out in the street and protest mass deportations, but they may keep the person next door from getting deported. And I think those are the kinds of connections that eventually get you to a place where you have a stronger social safety net. We can talk about politics and voting, but that's not the real work of the years to come.